When people demonstrate on behalf of the abducted children, over 200, nearly 300 children, whom we had sent on an errand, we sent those children to school to take their examinations, gathered them together, and they were abducted and disappeared from sight, abducted by the enemies not only of this society, but of humanity in general. Demonstrations, protestations cannot be too much as long as those children are missing.
Remember when those 21 girls were released, we did state that it is only the first step, that is a very important confidence building step that will pave way for the release of more girls. And as I speak to you, talks are on.
The President is very pleased. He's extremely delighted about this development. Since the first 21 girls were released last year, he gave instructions to the security forces to leave no stone untouched until all the girls are released. This is the second batch. This is the result of the effort. The President has them in his mind on a daily basis. He has been quiet, but he believes in delivery as opposed to tracking. So instructions are very clear. Go and get our girls back.
Welcome back to the program. Well, happy seasons indeed it is for Nigeria as a country. 82 schoolgirls out of the 276 abducted schoolgirls from Chibok in Borno State since April 2014 have been released. Mr. Shoma, let me go back straight to you. It's not all. It's a thing of celebration actually. Yeah. The federal government said it's going to tackle insurgency head on. Yes, the fight cannot actually be won in one day, in as much as it's quite frustrating. You know, several abductions, killings, and all of that. This, from what we had the Minister of Information say in that soundbite, he said that was the first tranche, the 21 that was released, yeah. And the federal government is not going to rest until more of the girls are released. I think we should be exploring what avenues the government should explore to gain more grounds in the fight of insurgency.
Yeah. For me, I think the release of, if for nothing at all, with the release of the Chibok girls, you know, it will give this government mileage, you know, in the fight against insurgency. Even though largely there are a lot of things largely unreported in the fight against insurgency, but the release of the Chibok girls will give them a lot of mileage, and so it is something everybody, the entire world. You remember when this thing happened, the entire world unanimously were, you know, with Nigerians, and then everybody wanted the release of these girls. And so now that the first, you know, batch were released, and now we've seen a larger number, you know, it's something worth celebrating. But also we should, I think government should, you know, take this as apart from these gains, they should also use the same method that they are using in negotiating the release of these Chibok girls. They also should use the same method to tackle the insurgency. Because I'm saying this because I've had cause to interact with some of the soldiers that return from, you know, the fighting Boko Haram. You know, it is easy as people to forget, you know, those that have died. I personally know some people who have died in the course of this struggle. There are families also who till date in the barracks who do not know where their husbands or their fathers are. Some of them died and were buried. And so if we use the same approach, the same method, we're using the same vigor we're using to celebrate this Chibok girls' return, we use the same method also, you know, to celebrate our soldiers that are fighting insurgency, we would achieve much more. It would give, you know, the government more mileage than what we already have. You know, I'm saying this because today you hear, like I said, Boko Haram have been technically defeated, and then the very next day you pick your newspapers, you hear Boko Haram invade a community and killed, you know, 7 people, 10 people, or then the third day you hear government kills 3 girls, you know, that we are attempting to detonate bombs and...
Okay, let me bring Honorable Sadiq at this point. Honorable Sadiq, communication also seems to be another problem. Passing one information across the day and then another tomorrow, and still on communication, Nigerians agitate to know more, in as much as government cannot be, displace or replace the position of guiding intelligence matters closely. How better can the government deal with the issues of passing across communication properly?
Well, you see, the issue of communication by any government, not just Nigerian government, has to be handled very, very discreetly. There are some things that the government ought to tell people as they happen. And there are some things also that the government will not be obliged to tell people, because that will amount to divulging government strategy as regards how to handle the situation. Sometimes you hear Boko Haram has been technically defeated, but there's no doubt in anybody's mind now in the world that Boko Haram has been technically defeated. They're no longer organized as they used to be in Hilux motor vehicles, convoys to go and invade a community and occupy that community. There's no doubt about it. But they do in trickles, and that is the meaning of insurgency. They cannot outrightly invade. Now, if you are fighting a non-uniform army, you are fighting people who wear civilian dress, sleep with the community, eat with them, play with them, understand, pray with them in their mosques. It is very difficult to pinpoint for sure who is who. So the government needs to be extremely careful in saying what is going to happen or what has happened and how it actually happened. That is why sometimes discordant tunes come from the government.